Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's French Open preview,
Rafael Nadal draws Zverev in round 1.
Iga Swiatek could face Naomi Osaka in round 2.
And Andy Murray lands a tricky opener against Dan Wawrinka.
Kim, Chris, today is the 24th of May and we are here to catch up on the French Open draws at Tennis Weekly HQ. That's right, Roland Garros has rolled into town and we are on hand, as always, to give our quarter-by-quarter views on the men's and women's singles draws, which were unveiled on Thursday in Paris. We will also be unveiling our usually terrible, but always a laugh, predictions, plus our collect a set player picks. Very, very excited for that one. And we are recording very early on this Friday morning. I have just awoken from my slumber. Guys, how are we all feeling? Are we at least all awake?
Very caffeinated. Awake might be a stretch, but I'm ready for collect a set. Caffeinated and ready to collect a set.
I'm not so caffeinated. I can't have caffeine as soon as I wake up on an empty stomach.
But are you ready to collect a set, Kim?
Of course, always. And I'm going to do my best to avoid the slam spoon of shame yet again. But Chris, you'll be doing your damnedest to, remove yourself from that.
Get rid of them, please.
That label.
I'm still loving it. Collect a set as a verb. I love it. Let's collect a set.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. It's what we're all trying to do on collect a set.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, this French Open is perhaps more important than others because we've got the Olympics on the line, haven't we? And the Olympics are coming up. They're going to be at Roland Garros, so it's pretty crucial, this French Open.
It is, and the Olympics played a role in the draw ceremony. Joel, I think we've talked about this before. I love the draw ceremonies when they're streamed. I love it when it's all in French, so I have no idea what's going on at all. And I love it when they get a guest athlete in who has no idea necessarily what is going on, and then they have to do the draw. And for this time it was Marie-Josée Pérec who was there, who's a very famous French athlete. And she's won 3 gold medals at the Olympics. So she was therefore creating that synergy with the Olympics. But you got to feel for her whenever they pull out a draw like Nadal Zverev and people are not thrilled. It's not a fun room to be in.
It was so it could have gone one way or the other, couldn't it? Because I think it could have been Alcaraz. It could have been Zverev. Very, very polar opposites. And there was an audible gasp in the room, wasn't there, when it was Nadal Zverev? It was almost like people were sort of like, "Oh, where's this going? Where's this going? Oh, we've gone with Zverev," and we'll get onto it. But I mean, it's a very tricky draw for both of them, I would say.
I mean, of all the players it could have been, in my most polite
terms.
Yeah, of all the players it could have been, it had to be Zverev, didn't it? If it was Alcaraz, it would have been like the Netflix slam happening for real in the first round.
In round one, yes.
Oh, I could see that, Netflix coming on there and being
less money on the line. Only got 25,000 euros, is it?
Yeah, nothing compared to Netflix. But yeah, we've had quite a few things happening also in the build-up to Roland Garros since we last spoke. Rumour has it that Serena Williams is back on a tennis court. What do we make of that?
I really hope this wasn't just because she's got a lot of promotional activity that she needs to plug, because she did say that she's ready to hit some balls again. She's looking like she's in great shape, and she did say it's highly likely when she evolved away from tennis that she would be playing again.
She might evolve
I think
back.
she loves a tease.
So is she evolving back? Is that what we're landing on?
I think you can't evolve backwards, but you can evolve back to tennis. So I think that's what she's doing. But she's not playing at the French, but she could be playing collect a set. So we'll keep an eye peeled on those entries.
I think she's teasing us, and as much as I would love it to be tennis, maybe it's some of that sweet pickleball money in the States for like a pickleball slam, or maybe it's padel. We don't know what type of balls.
What balls is she hitting?
Yeah, I don't know what type of balls. Are they tennis balls?
Ping pong balls.
Is it a pickleball ball? I don't know.
Balls. It could be something completely different, not even a racket sport. She'll keep us guessing.
Actually, she would be on the Olympics. She'd want to play the Olympics, wouldn't she? And I don't think she's put herself in the running for that.
Is
so
this a
then
tactical
maybe this is all a
comeback?
tease. It's a tactical tease, but
Okay.
I'm sorry to break it to any listeners because I just realised in real time.
I mean, we've also had quite a famous TV star hitting with Iga Swiatek. Courtney Cox was in Paris at some
where did
Babolat
this
event.
come from?
Is she relevant now, Courtney Cox? Friends hasn't been on for a while.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I watched it though, and I was pleasantly surprised actually by Courtney Cox on a tennis court. She had a pretty good forehand, and she actually put a volley winner away against Iga Swiatek at the net. So that was quite fun to watch. Maybe Sabalenka should be watching Courtney Cox in the build-up
Get some tips
to get an idea on how to defeat the Polish number one.
I've just done some live research, and actually they played tennis to promote her new 8-minute film, Beyond Number One. So I guess Courtney was the person they booked to do the interview, and then found out she could play tennis, and maybe that was the brief. Can you hit a tennis ball, and would you like to host a panel?
Sorry, is this Swiatek's got a film out or Courtney Cox?
Oh, Swiatek's got a film out.
Oh, right.
Because I'm
okay.
not sure.
Oh, I
Beyond
missed
Number
that.
One, Courtney Cox,
Yeah.
that would be quite funny.
I
Yeah.
was wondering, if maybe Courtney Cox was, doing a tennis-themed short film or something, inspired maybe by challengers. Everyone's getting into tennis these days. But yes, lots of activity going on in Paris in the run-up to the tournament. We are just a couple of days away from the Sunday kickoff, so very exciting times. And let's start by looking through the draws as we usually do. We do have Novak Djokovic heading up the men's draw. Hasn't been in the best of form. He's out in Geneva at the moment, still going strong there though. So, will that be enough to get him in shape, ready to win his 4th French Open? What do we make of his draw? He's got Casper Ruud as his potential quarterfinal, but there are some kind of potential danger men maybe in his section. Tommy Paul's been playing well recently. Lorenzo Musetti almost beat him a few years ago on these courts. What do you both make of Djokovic's potential run through to, the latter stages? Joel?
Yeah, I think it's a draw you want when you're not in the best of form. It looks like he's rediscovering that somewhat in Geneva. And I don't really see that an issue if he does continue to go further into the draw in Switzerland. I don't see that being an issue for Roland Garros. But at the same time, I'm just looking at some of the names he could face. I mean, Tommy Paul, he just had a good run in Italy, in Rome. Cerundolo as well, always a tricky customer on a clay court, could also be lurking along with Clayla Fritz. So I don't necessarily think he's got it all his own way, but certainly I think he's got a few matches in round 1, round 2 that look like they could sort of help him sort of continue that journey into discovering form before he comes up against a real test, potentially in kind of round 4 quarterfinal stage.
He might get a real test against Casper Ruud in Geneva. They're both in the semi-finals, and they could be on for a repeat in Paris. So I think that would be a very interesting marker for him when it comes to form, because, as you say, I mean, I can't see a Djokovic playing well being troubled before round 4, as you say. I think it's a pretty good draw when we look at some of the other draws that are here, and some of the other very decorated champions have got much trickier at first round or even second round encounters. But the Americans, Joel, you've been backing the Americans. You're going to reveal your predictions. I'm assuming you've gone for a Tommy Paul, Taylor Fritz quarterfinal.
Hey, no spoilers, but that might be on the cards. I'm still not totally convinced. Maybe we will see Djokovic in the latter week of Roland Garros. Ooh. But I think the Americans, they are playing very well. So it's hard hard for me not to see them make good runs. And again, I think they've got very good draws in this top quarter, and it'll be interesting to see how Casper Ruud gets on, because former French Open finalist, did very well here last year, sort of had a good start to the clay season, and maybe he's ending it as well with a good finish with his run in Geneva, and can he continue it on into Paris?
Tough first round.
Here's a yes/no question for you. is Novak Djokovic making the second week at Roland Garros this year?
Absolutely.
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think so. But I will hold off until my predictions to give you my reasons why.
Goodness.
Well, let's have a look at the second quarter, because this is where, it gets a bit for certain players. We've had Rafael
Audible
Nadal.
gasp territory.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Rafael Nadal, I mean, how many times has he won it? 15? Have I lost count? Too many times I've lost
14?
count. 14. I might be adding one on the extra there. He's got Zverev in the first round, who, of course, is the 4th seed. Ironically, this comes 2 years after that semi-final they played against each other that Zverev had to, withdraw from because of that awful injury that he had. Zverev's also going to be facing these domestic violence, this court case whilst this tournament's on. So lots going on. Of all the players, as we mentioned earlier, that Rafa could have faced, this is probably one of the worst players. Zverev just coming in off having won, the Italian Open in Rome, and has gone deep at this tournament before. How likely is it that Rafa's going to be able to defeat and inform Zverev? Even though this is, his court and he's won this tournament so many times, I think it's probably a bit too much to ask.
It's going to be difficult. It's definitely an uphill challenge, and I think you have to hope that Zverev, in the moment, that it does get to him. And we talked about this last time, that he's not necessarily the best crunch point player out there. And when the crowd is very much against you, Nadal, obviously so popular, is the Nadal show, this opening sort of practice sessions that they have in Paris. The crowds are huge. The attention will be on him. And we know that Nadal can definitely play with that attention on him. But do we know if Zverev will be able to play at that level for 5 sets? I think the 5 set would also get to Nadal in this case. So ultimately, if it's attrition, you'd have to think Zverev. If Nadal's going to do it, he's going to have to play very aggressively and get it done in 3, probably.
I do think that having it in the first round is an advantage to Nadal, say, rather than potentially further down the line when he would have had to obviously had more time on court before facing him. So I do think that is in an advantage. But yeah, it's a nightmare draw. I think it's a nightmare draw for both of them. But more, I would say maybe it's a nightmare draw for the tournament organisers because of all the stuff going around Zverev at the moment. Playing someone so well adorned like Rafael Nadal. I mean, Zverev really, he could put, in theory, Nadal into retirement and become like the ultimate bad guy, I feel like, on the tour. It's really one of those,
if he's not already,
situations. Yeah, I mean, it's got all the stories there, and it feels like a very dramatic, round one. So yeah, I don't know, Kim. What do you think? What were your reactions when this was announced?
I think it's sad for the tournament if Rafa is to lose this match, because obviously they would want him in for as long as possible. It's likely to be his last Roland Garros, and I like it when he's there for his birthday and they give him a massive cake with a candle that looks like it's going to set fire to everything. I don't think he's going to make it for that, but I would love to see him have like one last really fantastic, win over 5 sets on this surface at Roland Garros. So we just got to see what happens. But yeah, I do think if you can get kind of Zverev when he's maybe a bit rusty on these courts at the beginning, that's better than having him sort of play.
He loves
his way
a 5
into the
set
tournament.
at the French, doesn't he? I think one time he played 5 sets in every round to get to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So
but
again,
if this match goes long,
finishing.
And he's not often the best starter, I feel, at Grand Slams. He spends more time on court than he necessarily should, I feel.
Yes.
So
I'd agree with that. But I was going to say, Joel, you talked about sending Nadal into retirement. He's just been released. He's on the entry list for Wimbledon. Do you really think that this might be it?
So, sorry. Sending retire. I got carried away there. I mean, for his last crack at a French Open, possibly.
It's French Open retirement.
French
the end
Open
of his French Open
retirement,
career.
yes.
Got it. Just clarifying, because I was like, wait, has he said something?
see, I was sure that.
I've got to.
I thought that Rafa wouldn't play Wimbledon because I just thought usually the clay takes so much out of him that, I thought he wouldn't have anything left for Wimbledon. But if he loses first round here, I'd be thinking, well, it's more likely that he'll go to Wimbledon.
I'll be expecting to see him in the Surbiton Challenger, Kim.
On to 2025.
Surbiton challenger. Gosh, you can imagine Rafa and Surbiton. Let's have a look at the other players in this section. We've got Daniil Medvedev, who is, the according to the seeds, the player that would also reach the quarterfinal. Although I think he's got quite a tricky opener with Dominic Koepfer there. I can see that going 5 sets. But Medvedev lost in the first round here last year. Do you think he's going to have a better showing this time round?
Not particularly, I have to say. I think he's played decently on clay this season. I think last year the Rome result was a bit of a red herring, a bit of a surprise. And I think that obviously the courts of Paris have never been a really happy hunting ground for him. I think this is a very open section. I think the de Minaur Medvedev clash might happen in the 4th round potentially, but I do not really think that Medvedev will have another deep run at the French. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think Holger Rune is a very unknown quantity in terms of where his game will be at in Paris. French Open is a big goal of his, but he faces Dan Evans in round 1. And it's been a while since Dan Evans hasn't been seeded. What do you make of that clash?
What I make of that clash, sadly, I feel like it's quite a routine victory for Rune. Evans not really been in great form like all season so far. I'm struggling to see how Evans comes through that. But yeah, it does feel like we've got Zverev Nadal at the very top, and then it almost does feel like a little bit of land of opportunity in this quarter elsewhere because of the names you said. I say Medvedev, although he's like the 5th seed, it doesn't really feel like that given the form he's shown so far. So yeah, definitely an opportunity for someone to come through there.
What about Struff, for example? He isn't seeded.
I may not predict this player, but I think one to watch, Thomas Mašák in this section. He's in the semi-finals in Geneva, playing Djokovic today. It could be his time to come through, perhaps. And also, just a fun note here, there are 4 Alexes in this section of the draw. And I still remember that quiz that you gave me once, Joel, to name all the Alexes. But we've got 4 in just this section alone.
And you didn't get Alex de Minaur. I remember listening to that one. I wasn't on that episode. I couldn't believe it. I was screaming.
He's playing Alex Michelson. So it's a battle of the Alexes in the first round there.
There'll be 3 Alexes maximum in round 2 then.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at the third quarter, though, because we've got Andrei Rublev here, Carlos Alcaraz, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Now, this feels like quite a loaded quarter of the draw. And we've also got the likes of Felix Auger-Aliassime, Ugo Humbert and on his home slam, and Seb Cord and Ben Shelton, some Americans. May spring a surprise. Yep, Tsitsipas as well, of course. Quite a tricky section. Alcaraz is the highest seed in this draw, but, he's had his injury woes of late. We don't really know what Alcaraz is going to turn up. So who do you see coming through from this third quarter?
Could be tasty. Jack Draper, Alcaraz. I think that could be a round 2 clash. I think I'd love to see that. I think both of those players will get through. They've got qualifiers or lucky losers in round 1. I do think that Tsitsipas has been playing very well. I think he probably played a little bit too much during the clay season, potentially. Might not be... I think the rest he's had in the week prior, not playing obviously a Geneva event or another 250, could be very beneficial. But the French players, I'm hoping we can have a French player go deep because it just makes for such a wonderful atmosphere. And Arthur Fils has been in pretty good form. He won a challenger in Bordeaux, and maybe he'll be able to bring some of that form to a different part of France.
Yeah, definitely. I could, be very interesting to see which Frenchman does go the deepest, because I don't feel like there's a really obvious candidate at the moment. I mean, Ugo Humbert as well is in this quarter, also has, I think, potential. He opens against Sonigo. The player I'm most interested by is Felix Auger-Aliassime because of that run he had to the final. What was it, in Madrid? Yeah. So was that a fluke? Was that not a fluke? Can he continue that in Paris? I think, he's in a nice area of the draw. I mean, he opens against Nishioka, could possibly face Ben Shelton further down the line. And we also have Kei Nishikori in this section of the draw.
That.
Retro.
His big return to the big stage. He's got a possibility of a good first round.
Yeah, so it's definitely there's quite a few interesting names there, but yeah, my eye's certainly on FAA, and just to see what FAA is going to turn up.
Hopefully,
or
he
if
can
his
channel some of that
opponents turn
Madrid FAA. Yeah, you've only got to beat
Everyone
the player on
withdrew
the
in
other side of the
Madrid,
net.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he did benefit from quite a few withdrawals, so he'll be hoping for more of the same in the nicest possible way. But yeah, I'd love to see Felix have a bit of a run. But I do think that I guess we're all kind of looking maybe at that as possible. Tsitsipas, Rublev, fourth round, and that that's quite a tough fourth round compared to some of the ones that the top seeds could have. So I think the winner of that will be coming through, maybe to face maybe Alcaraz, maybe not. I think that'd be really interesting. Another player I'm really keen to sort of, I guess, see how they fare is Jannik Sinner, because he's in at the bottom of the draw as a second seed. We haven't seen him play in a while. We don't really know what Sinner's going to turn up. Will there be a last minute withdrawal?
If he's going to turn up.
Yeah, exactly. He's in the draw though, so we have to assume that he is at the moment. He's got some potentially, danger men in his section who have been playing well recently and in form. Nicolas Jarry, Alejandro Tabilo, Sebastian Baez, even names that loving the clay courts at the moment, and Hubert Hurkacz at the top of that section. Do you think if Sinner is in the draw, for example, do you see him coming through this, or do you think he's going to be a bit rusty, out of shape?
It's a good time to play Sinner when he has had injury issues or struggles there. You know that you're going to have a chance if you can try and make that match longer. And I mean, you probably wouldn't have the longest match against Christopher Eubanks from a serving perspective. I think that would probably be relatively short and probably some tie breaks. But Sinner, it's so hard to know, but if someone has that level of quality in their game, then they know they can rely on that at key moments and at key moments of matches. Even if they aren't that match fit right now, I think they're able to play a very good match and know what to go for at what times. But I mean, this section, probably as you said, like Nicolas Jarry might be the first real test that he might face. But I mean, Norrie hasn't had the best sort of form. He's seeded 32, which is quite far from where he has been previously. And this is obviously not his best surface. So it is a pretty good draw for Sinner if he is going to play himself into form.
He could potentially face either of Stan Wawrinka or Andy Murray at some point, because they have got each other in the first round. Actually, the winner of that would play Cameron Norrie, should he get there. What do you make of that? Two old veterans of the tour up against each other. Who's coming through that one?
It's hard not to think Stan the Man, I think. They've had so many battles over the years, and I think I was reading, actually, Andy Murray's last 3 French Opens he's always played Stan Wawrinka. And they had an incredible match. I think it was in 2017 in the semi-finals, and when they were really at the kind of peak of their powers, top of their game. And I've been reading about how some people think that match was the start of the downward kind of spiral for both of them. But it's nice, I think, to see them still in the draw, still competing, and getting one last hurrah against each other. And you just hope that gets its due diligence and gets put on a show court, because these are two warriors, two champions, and they deserve, I think, a really good sage and send off for that match. And I'd still put Stan Wawrinka probably as the favourite, but you never know with these players when it comes to Grand Slams and sort of the mode and the mentality that go in. It could just inspire them to raise their games, and we could maybe see that from Andy Murray. But I think if you just go on generally the form this season, it's got to be with Stan, I think.
And their last Paris clash was 1-3-2 to Stan. That was very strange. So you often don't even know what sort of Murray's going to turn up at the French. You feel like he's like, do I feel like I want to give it a go? It's a chance to go to a big slam, get a bit of match practice in before the Wimbledon and before the grass season, as opposed to, going deep at the French. It doesn't necessarily seem that's always the focus there. I
did enjoy, I don't know if you both saw this, but he got given a wild card into the men's doubles with Dan Evans, and it was the only wild card given to a non-French pairing, I believe, across both the men's and women's doubles draws. And there was some stat on social media that was saying that it was basically like the first time in a long, long time that a wild card had been given to a non-French pairing. So, I maybe don't tell Dominic Thiem that information, but, it does feel like they're giving them, they are respecting, legends of the game. And are willing to make compromises, but it's nice to see that Murray's in the singles, but also has the opportunity as well to play the doubles. I'm assuming maybe that's linked to Olympics somehow.
It feels like it might be, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that was one of the influences in the decision, but it's still nice to see.
That could also be what's influencing Murray to play the French. The fact that it is on the same surface.
Yeah.
He does always have Olympic ambitions, and because he has won the Olympics multiple times before, it does mean that you are eligible for potentially one of those extra spots that they have in the draw from that very complicated Olympic process I failed to describe a few weeks ago on the pod. So maybe this is preparation for his Olympics ambitions.
I think he'll go deeper in the doubles than the singles as well. That's my
a good prediction.
Bold statement. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how the Chileans get on, who had a recent sort of surge in Rome, Tabilo and Jarry, both in this section. But let's make some predictions, shall we, as to who we think is reaching those quarterfinals, the semi-finals, the final, and who is going to be our champion. Are we going to have a new champion here? Let's find out. So I'm going to go quarter by quarter, and we're going to reveal our player picks for this 2024 men's Roland Garros draw. So are we ready, guys? Listeners, ready to have a laugh?
As ready as I'll ever be, Kim.
Ready to, disagree with us, I'm sure. So quarter by quarter. Quarter one, Joel, who have you got?
I'm going big. Novak Djokovic ain't making it out of this quarter. I've got Tommy Paul versus Casper Ruud in quarter one.
Not
so
Clayla
Tommy Paul
Fritz.
is dethroning
Not
Djokovic.
Clayla Fritz. Yes, I just... Or someone is. I just can't make the argument. I just cannot make the argument that Novak Djokovic gets to the quarterfinals. Geneva aside, it's just, to me, I just can't see it. So therefore, I'm not putting his name in.
Fair enough. Well, I
Punchy.
have put his name in. I've got Djokovic against Casper Ruud.
Same.
Oh, same. Okay.
I've
so
done exactly the
all
same.
going for
so
Ruud.
I'm feeling, yeah. Yes, we are.
Quarter two, Joel.
Zverev, ADM, Alex de Minaur.
Okay. I've gone for Zverev as well. Unfortunately, I do think he's going to beat Rafa. I've gone for Daniel Medvedev, which, why not?
Really?
I know,
Really?
I know. We're just sort of saying he's got zero prowess on a clay court just now, but I think
You
he's
went
going
with
to
the
just
seeds.
sneakily
That's what
go
Joel normally
through
does, Kim.
without any fanfare or expectation.
Yeah, this is my one time I haven't done that, so I'm going to pile on Kim to be like, come on. Zverev, Medvedev, really? Really?
This is what I'm hoping for, is that now that Joel has just gone fully rogue, he'll be way worse than me at all prediction competitions, because I need to get rid of the spoon. I went for Runa there and ADM, so we all had variations on a theme.
Interesting.
And quarter three, Joel?
Again, I've gone rogue here because I don't think Alcaraz is fit, and I think something's going to happen early on in the tournament and he is going to crash out. So I've gone Tsitsipas versus Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Right. I mean, I'd be happy if Felix got to a quarter. I think that would be a great boost for his sort of flagging career somewhat. I've gone for Tsitsipas against Alcaraz, so I've gone with Alcaraz. I think he's going to just manage to get through. I don't think he'll win that quarter, but, I think he's going to get there. Chris?
Yeah, I think when someone has that sort of level of pedigree, that they can always spring a surprise and pick up a racket and do very well. So I've also gone for the same as you, Kim. So we're very in sync this time.
We are quite in sync, aren't we? Quarter four, though, Joel. This one might be a bit rogue, perhaps.
Yeah, again, I mean, I'm just going with the theme of the men's draws at high-profile tournaments and it being wide open and just seemingly a collection of random names. So, quarter four, I have got Alejandro Tabio versus Nicolas Jarry. I'm going for an all-Chilean quarter-final.
Chilean extravaganza.
Is it Chilean or Chilean? I'm not sure, but
I went Chilean.
Chilean. I think Chilean.
You say
sounds more
potato,
debonair.
I say potato.
Okay.
Well, I've gone for exactly the same. I've also gone for Tabio against Jarry. Maybe it's a bit of a recency thing, and they're on my mind. We can't maybe draw too much into one tournament, but I'm going to go with it. Chris, have you done the same?
Well, you went no top seeds, just vibes. I went for Sinner Hurkacz, so I've very much gone with the seeds in this one.
Oh, you've fallen into the trap.
The trap. What have I become, Joel? I think I'm scared of what's happened before.
They're seeded for a reason, though, to be fair. So combined to that. So let's reveal our semi-final lineups. Who's getting through those quarters we've just revealed? Joel, who have you got in your semis?
Rude versus Zverev in the top half and Tsitsipas Tabilo in the bottom half.
Joel, he's desperate to get his hand on a spoon.
I know.
He's run out of cutlery.
I've gone rogue.
Finest.
I don't care anymore. I've gone rogue. I just look at the final four of Madrid and Rome and how rogue it is and how open it has been. So that was the brief to myself looking at the predictions, and I was like, I just think there is going to be some opportunity there for a name that is going to surprise us, and I'm landing on Alejandro Tabio.
Well, I've not done too dissimilar a thing. I've gone for the other one there. I've gone for Nicolas Jarry. So I've got a semi-final lineup of Djokovic against Zverev and Tsitsipas against Jarry. So we've got two the same in our semis there. We've got Zverev and Tsitsipas. Chris, who have you got?
I went all Scandinavian. I thought there'd be an all Scandinavian clash of Ruud versus Rune. I think that would be
No chance.
very tasty. I think, again, do I believe any of my predictions when I say these things out loud? No, I really don't. But it made sense when I went through the draw. And my other semi-final, I've gone for Tsitsipas versus Hurkacz. But I do think that Casper might get Djokovic. But he's definitely making it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Exciting. And so who have we got as our finalists and eventually our champion? Big reveal, Joel.
I've got a Rude versus Tsitsipas final, which I can plausibly see happening.
Yeah.
And I am going to say champion Casper Ruud.
Ooh.
Casper Ruud finally,
I'd love
after
that.
two finals, getting a win here. That'd be really nice to see, actually. I've gone a bit old school, I'm afraid. I've gone for a final of Djokovic against Tsitsipas. And I know that's been a final before, but I'm still going for Djokovic to be the champion. I think despite his form and his issues, I think he'll get a few rounds under his belt and he'll hone in on that rhythm that we know he can produce on this court. And I just think he's won too many for me to discount him.
I think it sounds right. It does sound right. You can't really go wrong
I mean, I
with
hope
the
I'm
Djokovic
wrong,
prediction
guys.
at a slam.
I don't want him to win. I'd love to
Yes.
see a fresh champion. I mean, obviously, I'd love Raf to win. I'm not going to lie there, but that's unlikely. So I'd love to see, a fresh champion. But yeah, I'm just going to go old school. Chris, what about yourself?
Well, we've all gone for different champions. I've gone for Ruud Tsitsipas in the same way as Joel, but I've got a different winner. I've got Tsitsipas coming out on top there. I think it's all going to switch into gear, and he's going to get over the line in a very, very tight 5-setter.
So we all have Tsitsipas in the final.
I mean, a Ruud Tsitsipas would be a very interesting final because obviously they've both suffered heartbreak at that stage. So it could come down to like who handles their nerves. But I mean, this is so far away, and our predictions are very rarely correct. But yeah, I would very much love to see a Ruud Tsitsipas final, but who knows?
Well, that's our men's draw kind of rounded up. That's our men's predictions. We'll be back very shortly to look at the ladies' draw. We're going to take a very quick break, but do join us in the second half where we'll be looking at that draw, revealing also our collector set player picks. So make sure to stay with us. And also, if you're looking ahead already to the grass court season, take a little listen. There's a way that you might be able to win yourself a pair of very exciting tickets to the Boodles. Get ready for the Boodles. The ultimate pre-Wimbledon tennis exhibition is returning to Stoke Park from the 25th to the 29th of June.
and we are offering one lucky Tennis Weekly listener the chance to win a pair of stadium tickets to join us at the Country Estate for a day of world-class tennis in an English garden party setting.
Where you can sip champagne, dine in style, and mingle with your favourite tennis stars.
The Boodles is located just 35 minutes from central London, and every seat in the stadium is no more than 10 metres from the court, giving every guest the ultimate fan experience on one of the UK's finest grass courts.
Tickets start from £105 and attendance is strictly limited to 2,000 per day, so booking early is advised to avoid disappointment. To book, visit www.theboodles.com. That's www.theboodles.com.
And for your chance to win a pair of stadium tickets, all you have to do is follow us on social media at Tennis Weekly Pod, like our competition post, and tag a friend that you would like to bring with you.
Maximum 2 entries per person, 1 per social channel, and the competition closes on Saturday the 1st of June at midnight. Winners will be announced on our Round 4 French Open catch-up on Monday the 3rd of June, so listen in to find out if you're our winner. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And now we're going to move on to the women's draw, where we do have Iga Swiatek as the top seed. She's won this title many times now. And, well, is she going to win it again? Because she doesn't have the easiest of draws, I think it's fair to say. A lot of major champions, finalists lurking in her draw. She's got possibly a second round clash with Naomi Osaka to start her off. And also the prospect of Danielle Collins later on, perhaps Barbora Krejcikova. So, yeah, a host of names that may be hoping to, well, that are hoping to end Swiatek's dominance at this event. Chris, what do you make of Iga Swiatek's draw for 2024?
It is a tough one. I mean, we've said that Iga is almost the number one favourite and the only... So Iga versus the draw, basically. And I think the draw took that challenge and gave her some tricky ones because Osaka round 2...
And Amelie Mauresmo took offence to that.
Maybe. She's like, we've got to make this interesting. We can't just give her the trophy at the end. But she did turn up at the draw ceremony again. She's doing her annual appearance there. And maybe she should have just collected the trophy and walked away with it, some people would say. But I think it's not a great draw because I think when you have players like Danielle Collins who have so recently come into such amazing form, I mean, they played in Australia, that was super tight, and then she bageled her, I think it was in Indian Wells, before that incredible run that Collins went on. So that's a tough player. I mean, seeded here at number 11, and Danielle Collins is 4 in the race. So I guess that's kind of tricky on paper, as well as the fact that you have Vondrousova in this section, who has been to the final before, Krejcikova, a former champion. So I think it's one of those draws where if someone is very, very inspired and you face them early, it can be a bit tricky, but do we think that it will cause her serious problems? Unlikely.
And you've got to think also, she's just come through a very, very challenging test against Courtney Cox. I mean, that was a very good warm-up for her. That's going to put her in real Grand Slam mode, I think, for Paris.
Yeah, that was more of a friendly, wasn't it?
Oh, friendly. Yeah. I like what you did there.
See what I did
if that was
there?
intentional or not.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Joel's like,
I mean,
no,
they'll all be
didn't
getting, friend stars next to hit with them. Jennifer Aniston will be at Wimbledon.
Just very quickly, Swiatek, Osaka, do we see any issues out? I know it sounds like a blockbuster match on paper, but if that does happen, do we see any challenges for Swiatek there? I mean, we talked about Osaka improving on clay over the season so far. Is it enough to even be an issue for Swiatek, do you think?
It will be a nightmare matchup on clay as well. I think with Naomi, it's really tricky for her to move on the surface well, and that's exactly what Iga does so well. So no matter how big Osaka's going to hit, Iga has some of the best defense, well, probably her and Coco Gauff, the best defense in the game. And you add into that the fact that Osaka's going to have to really push. She's going to have to hit bigger and bigger. And we've seen that happen before where she does just go off the board in those situations. So if it was another surface and at a different time, potentially, but I do think as far as matchups go, it is, it's the final boss.
I think it's going to be like 3 and 4 to Swiatek, but I think Osaka will get the practice and the inspiration she needs to then win the Olympics later on in the year, which
Yes,
is my
you did,
prediction.
yes. You're
at the
sticking with that
start of
one,
the
are you,
year.
Kim?
Are you still going with that? Love that.
Yes, absolutely. I do think Danielle Collins is going to come
Well, she
through,
needs to
though,
beat her at
this
some point
quarter.
then, by the way, Kim, doesn't she?
Well, I suppose so, yeah. But yeah, I'm looking at Danielle Collins. She's still going strong in Strasbourg, playing well there. She's had such a great season, especially of late. So I think Collins, Swiatek, quarterfinal.
Do you think there's
tasty.
any risk of burnout? I feel like Danielle Collins has been going deep in pretty much all the tournaments she's been playing in, playing Strasbourg the week before, going on a similar run in the semi-finals at the moment. Is there risk, do you think, with Collins that maybe it would have been better to take this week off?
It probably is Olympics related again because it is so tight with some of these top American girls playing so well in terms of Madison Keys having a late run. And so you just don't know what's going to happen at the French when you cut off for the Olympic qualification. So you might be in pole position in the race, but in terms of the ranking, if someone has a deep run in Paris, then it can all change.
That's a good point, yeah.
So I think it was more from that perspective, but anyone who follows her on Instagram will see no one is having more fun than Danielle Collins right now, off court and on court. So I think because of the fact it's her final season, she really is just embracing the challenge of it. And not like she's playing that long matches because she's just, swatting people away at this point. So I think she's doing a lot of tennis, but I think when you're playing that well and you're not playing next season, you maybe think, let's push through.
And let's have a look at the second quarter, because this quarter does involve Coco Gauff as the third seed, former finalist here. She's been having a bit of issues lately, especially on her serve in the last few events, but she's been kind of managing to, I guess, win ugly, I suppose. Brad Gilbert's in her corner. But she has got some tough names in this quarter as well. Yelena Ostapenko on Jabeur as well, and home favourite Caroline Garcia. Can she do anything here? I don't think she's gone beyond the quarters here before. So what do we make of this? Do we think Coco Gauff is going to come through this, or are we looking at a former champion in Yelena Ostapenko perhaps?
Are you looking at Alison van Uitvank? Joel, you're a big fan of hers.
Magda Linette. Also, I believe in this quarter.
Yes, this is your section, and one of Kim's favourites, Samsonova's also here. She likes to predict her to do a big one.
I don't really know what to make of this draw. I mean, Coco Gauff had a good run, at the Italian Open in Rome, but aside from that, I'm looking elsewhere, and it feels quite open. Ons Jabeur has not had the best of seasons. We've seen glimpses, but to me, it's not been enough to make me think she's a dead-on cert to go deep in this tournament. And I mean, Garcia, she's not really brought it, I feel like, in front of her home crowd as much as maybe she would have wanted to. And again, I don't feel like I'm with the tennis that she's produced, recently, that is a foregone conclusion. So maybe it is someone like Yelena Ostapenko. Though, having said that, I think I was reading Ostapenko hasn't really done that much at this tournament of late. I think round 3 is typically where I think she gets to, and then that's it. So it's really hard, and maybe there is a surprise name that could come out here. Maybe
there was a fabulous sort of stat on Ostapenko, I think, where she lost in the first round the first time she played it. She then won it the second time, and then she had first round exits for the next, I think, two or 3 years. And essentially, she'd won all of the matches she played at Roland Garros was in 1 year. But now she gets kind of the second round, but a tough draw normally. So there'll be chances. But I mean, again, how do you predict an Ostapenko result or tournament?
Okay, Chris, I've just actually got Ostapenko's French Open record.
Yeah.
2016 round 1,
Yes.
2017 champion, 2018 round 1, 2019 round 1, 2020 round 3, 2021 round 1, 2022 round 2, 2023 round 2. You get the picture. Yeah, it's very hot and cold. It's very Casper Ruud.
Yes, it is. When he only made major finals and nothing in the and then all lost in the first round.
It's all or nothing. I mean, Joel, you're a big fan of Magda Linette. She got to the semi-finals here 3 years ago. Do you think maybe someone like that could, this is where we're going to get like a rogue semi-finalist perhaps?
I mean, it's a very tasty round one clash, I think, with Samsonova. A matchup both of them probably wouldn't have wanted. I think Lynette's star maybe has faded a little bit since that run to the semis at the French. But she's certainly got previous positive experiences to draw upon that could help inspire her. But I think with her, you've got to take one match at a time, particularly when you've got someone like Samsonova across the net in round one.
I think Kalinina's been in good form lately. I think she's still going strong at an event this week. So I might be looking at her, or maybe Timofeeva as a really young up-and-coming player. She could have a bit of a run.
Clara Townsend, she could do something. She's a very talented Dane. Yeah.
Well, got to look at the young, talented Danes. There's quite a few of them. Let's have a look at the third quarter, where we've got Rybakina as the top of the bunch here, as the fourth seed. But she also has Qinwen Zheng, recent Australian Open finalist in this section of the draw. She's got a former finalist at Roland Garros, Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova, as well. And yes, just some tricky names. Elina Svitolina in this section. Sorana Castella, she's always a bit of a tough cookie. So, what do we make of Rybakina? Obviously, we've not seen her too much of late. She's withdrawn, from a few things. I always feel like there's question marks over her, like her fitness or her health sometimes. I'm kind of never 100% confident if she's going to kind of be ready to get going. But do you think, she didn't play in Rome? Do you think she's going to come back strong? And, how confident are we that she'll be making her way through to kind of her seeded position, shall we say?
I mean, as you say, it depends. Last year she withdrew from the French. She was playing very well. A lot of people thought she would go deep. So she hasn't played that much here. She hasn't probably had the most experience. You think about someone like Iga, who spends so much time on the courts here, and I think the conditions playing Rome would have been a bit more similar. We always talk about that, and obviously she had a deep run in Madrid. So in terms of actual clay courts that are similar to how they play in Roland Garros in Paris, she's a little bit unknown. But as you say, like, she either withdraws or she has a great run. So it's hard to know. But I think the only thing I know about this section is that Fiona Ferro versus Dan Parry will be on Philippe Chatrier.
French clash.
All French clash.
Fiona Ferro with a wild
Rybakina could
card.
play Angie Kerber.
Oh, Kerber.
Kerber in round two. I mean, Kerber, I'll say, was the stiffest competition, it felt like, for Iga Swiatek in Rome. So maybe that could be a little bit of a challenge. I know that clay isn't necessarily Kerber's best surface, and she does have to come through her round one opponent, Arantxa Rus. So, that could be quite interesting. The one other matchup I wanted to pick out from this section, and I don't know if it's going to happen, because I feel like the only time I know Bianca Andreescu is going to play is once I see her on the tennis court, literally before the warm up. But Andreescu has got Sorribes Tormo after a long time off the tennis court in round one, if that match happens. Guys, I feel like that is the worst matchup you could possibly want after having a long layoff time off the court.
It would be tricky. I mean, you really have to be committed to blasting the ball past her. Otherwise, you're just going to end up kind of digging your own grave. It feels like in the clay it could be. So I think she is going to play, though. I've seen a very inspiring Instagram reel, and she looks like she's in very good shape. But having said that, you have to be in the shape of your life to get a win over Sara Sorribes Tormo, and the shape of your life over 3 hours mostly. So not an ideal draw, but if she can get through that one, she'll have some tough tests in terms of Kalinskaya and Paulinia in that section. So it doesn't get much easier from there.
Elise Cornet also in with a wild card at what's likely to be her last French Open.
It is her final, yes.
So she's got Zheng in the first round. I kind of put Zheng in my quarterfinals, but I wonder if Cornet will go on one final hurrah here in front of her home crowd. But I imagine that will also be on a big show court because they want to give her a nice send off at Roland Garros. I mean, let's have a look finally at the last quarter where we do have Sabalenka down as the second seed at the bottom of the draw. She's in this section with Madison Keys, who is doing well of late, still going strong in Strasbourg, like Collins. We've also got Kasatkina, Azarenka, Sakkari, Katie Boulter as well for British hopes in this section. Are we going to see Sabalenka come through this one? She's been in good form of late, I suppose, but losing out to Swiatek in those finals. But is she going to be consistent enough to make it through this draw? Is there anyone that could possibly challenge her? Chris? I do see a Sloane Stephens.
Oh, I know, but Sloane has Putintseva, who she lost to 3-2 in Rome, and Sloane has completely gone off the boil. I have no idea what's gone on. She withdrew from, I think, the Paris 125, and then in Strasbourg she went out to, I think it was Magdalena Frech in 3-3, and this is her best surface. So she started the clay season early. I hope she can end it as well as she started it, where she picked up that 250. But they played last year in Paris, and it was a great contest, but it was won by Sabalenka. So as much as I think that Sloane on clay is unbelievable, Sabalenka is really, really good, and I think that will be a challenge. But the Brits are in this section as well. Are either of you more hopeful than I am about Sloane's prospects?
Not, I can't say so. I mean, they're both tough matchups, I think, for the Brits. I mean, Boulter, Badosa, and Harriet Dart has also got Noskova. So I can't. I think they're going to be practicing on the grass very, very early. Is my gut feeling.
Going to be in serve.
Any sort of, even a set, I think I would take at this moment. But I don't think they've been handed kind draws, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't expect to see any Brits in the ladies' draw in the second round.
Yeah, as much as Katie Boulter, she's seeded 26, but coming up against Paola Badosa, who's kind of having a bit of a resurgence after injury. I feel like Badosa's gonna get that one. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Sabalenka, will she reach the semi-finals? Because she's done that the last 6 majors. She's very consistent at the slams. So I would be looking to anyone from this draw to kind of try and prevent her from getting to that stage again. And let's have a look to see though if we are getting Sabalenka in the semis or not from our predictions. So I'm going to go quarter by quarter again, but I'm going to come to you first, Chris. So who have you got in quarter one for the ladies singles?
Unsurprisingly, very unsurprisingly, Swiatek Collins.
I've gone for exactly the same.
Agreed.
Oh, we've got a clean sweep there.
Swiatek DC. Yep, clean sweep, move on, done deal.
Quarter two then, Chris.
I've gone for Goff Kalinina.
I've gone for exactly the same. Snap. Nice.
Oh, that was my rogue one.
Oh, well, I know. Maybe is it that rogue if we've both predicted it then?
No.
I've gone Goff Ostapenko.
Okay.
Although I'm slightly more fearful for that prediction now. I just looked at her
French Open record.
Her French Open record. But Goff Ostapenko.
And quarter three, Chris?
Paulini Rybakina.
Okay. Yeah, I've gone for Zheng against Rybakina. So I think Zheng is going to come through Cornet in round one. John?
Yeah, it's hard. Chris, I hate to say it, it's hard not to go with the seeds here. I'm going Zheng Rybakina as well.
You're very much, this is a Joel type of prediction,
yeah,
I'd say.
I've gone less rogue with, I think, the women's prediction.
You can't go rogue with both, otherwise you end up with the slam spoon of shame.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, quarterfinal 4, Chris.
I went for Sabalenka Kasatkina.
Nice. I've also gone for Kasatkina, but I'm somehow predicting Sabalenka to have an earlier exit. I've gone for Madison Keys. I know she's been in fairly good form lately, but
yes.
I mean, I don't know how confident I am about this, but I thought I'm going to put her in there. Why not? But Joel?
I've gone Azarenka Sabalenka.
So Belarusian.
Yeah. However, one player around Azarenka I forgot to talk about, Mira Andreeva, who had obviously a very good Australian Open. Be interesting to see how she fares. I think could face Azarenka early on, so that's given me a little bit of nervousness. But yeah, I'm going to back Azarenka. I think she's had a pretty decent clay season so far. So yeah, going that for quarter four.
So who have we got coming through to the semis? So both of your semi-finals, please, Chris.
This is where the upsets start. I think Danielle Collins is going to take out Iga Swiatek, and it's going to be an all-American clash of Collins Goff.
Wow. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, I mean, hopefully, I'm really willing it to happen.
Imagine Danielle Collins winning Roland Garros. I mean, that would be fantastic. I don't think anyone
What a story.
would be unhappy about that. So who's in your other semi then?
Rybakina Sabalenka.
Okay.
Very boring.
Yeah, one we have seen before. So my semis, I've got Swiatek. I think she's going to come through against Collins. I've gone for Kalinina making it through to her first semi-final.
Oh, wow.
Slam.
Wow, Kim. Okay.
And I've gone for Rybakina against Madison Keys. I'm going big on Keys here. Going all in.
Right.
Yeah. Joel, what about you?
I've gone Swiatek Goff and Rybakina Sabalenka. So
1, 2, 3, 4.
The so-called big four, big three plus Goff, whatever you want to call it. Maybe you don't want to call it. Yeah, maybe you don't want to call it anything. But yeah, I've gone very safe with that. I just think they're in form. Makes sense. So yeah, they're my final four.
And who have we got as your finalists and champion then, Chris?
Collins Sabalenka, and I think we've seen it a few times that it isn't the best matchup for Collins, and I think Sabalenka is going to take the French.
Oh, wow. So 2 slams in 2 then for her this year, potentially.
But not the number one ranking, which is
not the number one ranking.
Very interesting. I like those sort of conundrums you get into.
Well, I've gone quite boring, perhaps. I think I'm actually just predicting both of the top seeds to win the event. I'm going for Swiatek as my champion. I think she's going to beat Madison Keys in the final quite comfortably, 6-2, 6-3.
Right, you went for scores in the
I've
final
gone for
as well.
score lines as
Kim.
well.
Okay. I'm not going to go that far, but I've got Swiatek Rybakina in the final, and I've got Swiatek as champion. For some reason I think if Rybakina Sabalenka does happen, I'm backing Rybakina for some reason. But although Rybakina fares well against Swiatek, I just can't get away from Iga Swiatek and all the good she's done so far this season, and I think she's going to continue that to win another French Open title.
Her record in finals as well, once she gets there, is anyone beating her, at that stage. So, well, we've not gone too rogue then, 2 Swiateks and a Sabalenka for the ladies' predictions. Listeners, let us know who you've got winning both the men's and the women's. How much do you disagree
and
with
who
what
do you
we've
agree
just
with?
predicted?
Yeah, exactly.
Who do you disagree with?
Yeah.
Are there any predictions you would, put money on there? However, there is another way you can get involved in predictions, because we do have a very unique Tennis Weekly prediction challenge. As usual, as it is a Grand Slam, we have our Collect a Set game, and let's kind of explain it for listeners who may not have played before, and let's reveal our player picks for Roland Garros 2024. So collect a set, for anyone who hasn't played, it's a little predictions challenge. There are 6 players, and you just need to tell us via social media, emailing us, different channels, Facebook, Instagram, X, etc. You just need to tell us what round you think each of those players will get to in Roland Garros. And if you think they're getting to the final, you need to tell us if you think they're going to be either the champion or the runner-up. So be specific. So it might be something like you think Djokovic is going to get to the 4th round, for example. So just let us know your picks. The prize is a very special Tennis Weekly mug, so you can enjoy a nice beverage whilst watching the tennis and thinking about us in the future, perhaps. But it's also the pride of having won the title of Collector Set. So yes, let's reveal our 6 players for this event. Chris, would you like to reveal our male picks for Roland Garros 2024?
I would love to. Well, we couldn't not put in Rafael Nadal, But before that, we're also putting in the top seed, Novak Djokovic, because we don't know where his form is at. And so I think that makes this particularly interesting. And someone else who we don't know often how his form is Felix Auger-Aliassime. So it's Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, and Felix Auger-Aliassime.
I think this is the first time we've had like Djokovic and Rafa in our collector set as well. But that just shows, it's much more unpredictable.
It's a blockbuster collector set.
It's a blockbuster collector set. And Joel, who are our three?
Edition.
Who are our three female player picks?
Well, quite possibly first time also in collector set Tennis Weekly history. I've gone for three players, all from the same nation, the nation of the United States, because our female player picks are Danielle Collins, Coco Gauff, and Madison Keys.
Oh, your finalist, Kim. Will you be sticking with your predictions?
I'll have to, won't I? Yeah, so three American
you
players.
You don't have to. You can...
Hedge your bets, yeah.
Yeah, cover all bases. But yeah, so we've got Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Danielle Collins, Coco Gauff, and Madison Keys. So get your predictions into us before the start of play on Sunday, so you haven't got long. Facebook us, Instagram us, send us a message on X or reply to our post. We'll be promoting this shortly. Or email us. Let us know however you like. And we will be revealing our collector set predictions in our next episode as well. And we will be doing round by round coverage for Roland Garros over the coming weeks. So do listen out for all our thoughts on the day's play.
And next time, Kim, we will be there together. That's the next time you'll be on the podcast.
Yes, that is the plan. We have some tickets for next week, Roland Garros. So very excited. I've not been there for 10 years.
Same day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring the changes.
Changed.
There's roofs now. There's an extra court. There's pickleball in the grounds for the fans. So lots of change.
Imagine if we send you a picture of us playing pickleball.
First thing you're doing is going there. Yeah.
That'll be the Tennis Weekly pickleball tournament in action.
The annual slam, yeah.
Well, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the action to come over the next couple of weeks from Roland Garros.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. So if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And as Kim said, do get in your entries to Collector Set. You can do that on our social media and our email. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X. And the handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. You can purchase our Tennis Weekly merch at etsy.com/shop/Tennis Weekly Podcast. You can email us at tennisweeklypod@gmail.com or check out the website tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next Tuesday at Tennis Weekly HQ for our round one catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.